What is up, guys? So this is going to be my review for Black Lightning Season 1, Episode 2, titled Lawanda, the Book of Hope, which is a pretty strange title. First of all, there was no books in this episode, nothing like the Book of Hope. Also, Lawanda, although she was a main focal point of the episode, she wasn't like a main character or anything, and considering, spoiler alert, she died in the episode, it's weird that the next episode is also called Lawanda, the Book of Burial, but I'm guessing the next episode it will be like a direct continuation of this one, and it will focus around the same issues, like Lawanda was killed, and pretty realistically, I might add, but I'll touch on that later. But this episode was probably my favorite Black Lightning episode ever, and don't take that lightly. There have been a lot, well, it's the second episode, so... But yeah, this is definitely a better episode than episode 1. In my episode 1 review, I said that I thought Cress Williams, who plays Jefferson Pierce / Black Lightning, was okay at times and also pretty good at times, but mostly I said he was fine. Actually, I said Jefferson Jackson because it was a mistake. I have to get used to saying Pierce after Jefferson instead of Jackson after Jefferson, but Jefferson Pierce, Cress Williams is Jefferson Pierce. I thought he was okay as Black Lightning / Jefferson Pierce, but in this episode, I thought he was actually a lot better. There was that one scene where Jefferson came to the realization that he's been living a lie and that the principal can't save people while Black Lightning can. I thought that was a great scene. It was really well acted by Cress Williams. In general, I thought that in this episode he was a lot better than he was in episode 1. I don't know why. Maybe it's because he had more experience acting on this show. He felt more comfortable or something, but he was a lot better in this episode for me than he was in the last episode. Like I just mentioned, Jefferson Pierce came to the realization that he needed to become Black Lightning again, and I thought that him becoming Black Lightning again in this episode, not so much episode 1, was very organic. In episode 1, it felt a little bit forced. I don't think I mentioned that in my review, but it did. It felt a little bit forced, but in this episode, it was really organic, him wanting to become Black Lightning again. You could see that earlier in the episode, he didn't really want to. He would have preferred to stay with his ex-wife and get remarried or something like that, but then Lawanda died, and that was a very realistic death scene where Lala was gonna shoot her, and I thought somebody's gonna save her or something, or he's gonna hesitate and not shoot her like in every movie and TV show, but he just straight up shoots her in the chest 3 times and she dies. It's such a realistic death scene, and that's a lot of praise for this show is going towards the realism and the grounded universe or city or whatever, and that I didn't really see that in episode 1. I did a little bit, but not like incredibly. I didn't see that a lot, but here in this episode, with Lawanda's death, with her really realistic death scene, nobody saved her, and Lala didn't hesitate or anything. He just shot her. I saw it. I saw the grounded real life in that scene. But Lawanda's death scene made Jefferson realize that even though she was his student, she still died, which means the principal can't save people, while Black Lightning could have, and Black Lightning could have saved her. And then and that's just so organic. The way they did in episode 1 was his daughters were kidnapped and something like that, which was fine, but it felt a little bit forced. In this episode, it was so organic and it felt real. I think this could have been a better first episode, honestly, if they started here with a little tweaks here and there just to introduce us to the characters a little bit better than this episode did, which it doesn't need to. Episode 1 did, but this could have been the first episode, and I would have been happy with that, because the first episode was not nearly as good as this episode. It would have left such a better taste in my mouth to, not literally, but to stay and watch the whole rest of the show if this was the first episode with little tweaks here and there, because this was so much better than the first one. Another thing this episode does better than episode 1 is the fight scenes. So I think there was one fight scene in this episode, but in episode 1 I said the fight scene was pretty great when he was using his electricity, but when he wasn't, it looked so weird and wonky, especially with the suit. It looked just like it looked bad when he wasn't using his electricity and incorporating it into his fight style. In this episode, they really improved on that fight scene. I thought that fight scene was actually pretty good. But in this episode, the fight scene was great. He incorporated his electricity so much more in this fight scene, and it just made it look better. Every single punch he threw, a little spark came off of it, and it just made it look so much more exciting. And also when he was shooting electricity, throwing people around, this was such an exciting fight scene, and then it led to him confronting Lala and then punching him several times. It was just a great fight scene, and I really liked it. I love it. I think one of my favorite parts of the show is gonna be the fight scenes when he incorporates his electricity into the fight style, which he did in this episode and in episode 1 to a smaller extent, but not that much smaller, because in this episode he did it like every punch. In that episode there were some times where he didn't and it looked weird, but I feel like the future of the season, I will love every single fight scene that has his electricity in it, and also maybe when Anissa's fighting alongside him, which I will talk about her in a second. So Anissa discovered her powers at the end of the last episode, and in this episode she confronted it a little bit more, which I'm pretty sure it said that in the synopsis. Don't quote me on that though. I'm pretty sure it said Anissa confronts her new abilities or something like that, but we really didn't see her use her powers until the ending, and until then she just talked about it with her girlfriend, which, by the way, her being lesbian is comic book accurate. I'm pretty sure the CW just like jumped at the chance to use a gay comic book character, because up until now, every gay character they've used on the shows, I'm pretty sure every single one of them was straight in the comics, like Mr. Terrific and the Ray and Citizen Cold, and Alex isn't a comic book character, but all of them are straight in the comics, and I'm pretty sure this is the first one they're using that is actually gay in the comics or lesbian in the comics, so they probably jumped at the chance to use her, and there's no way they would make that comic book inaccurate, which is fine, but I'm just saying that's accurate. But I like the scene at the end where she fully discovers her powers and throws that guy across the room, across the store, which was a pretty cool scene. Now, I said that Lawanda's real death was really realistic, and I actually liked it, but the death of Will and Lala, not so much, because those two were actually really, really developed well in episode 1, and I was hoping to see them as recurring villains this season, and at least be killed off later in the season, not episode 2. Both of them were killed off, and Will was killed by Lala was killed by Tobias Whale, so like it's like a chain of command, and everyone's killing their inferior or something like that. But either way, I still didn't like that Will and Lala died, because those, like I said, they were developed really well as villains in episode 1, even more so than Tobias Whale was. So the fact that they were killed off so early in the season, I just really wanted them to be recurring villains. I thought Lala could have been a great recurring villain, but they killed them off. And although they're not comic book characters, so they can get away with this, I mean, they could get away with whatever they want, but I don't really care usually if a non-comic book character gets killed off early, but they were just developed so well that I just wanted to see more of them. So other than all that, we did see more of Tobias Whale, and he is still a very one-dimensional mob boss character that kills the people who work for him, which always bothered me in movies and TV shows. I hate it. Like I said in my episode 1 review, I hate it when a mob boss or somebody like that kills the people who work for him, because why would anybody work for him after that? Why would he even injure them like he did in episode 1? He injured Lala, and then here he killed him. Why would anybody work for somebody that kills their employees or something like that? So I don't like it, and Tobias Whale so far is just a really one-dimensional character. I really hope we see more of him, maybe his backstory, maybe his motives, his agenda, something like that, so it can become more two-dimensional. On top of all that, there were 2 romantic subplots, and it felt like those 2 subplots were literally like a full season of Arrow or The Flash or any CW show other than Black Lightning put into one episode, and it really worked. Like the Jefferson Pierce and the Lynn romance, and also the Jennifer and her boyfriend, who was played by Chuck from Riverdale romance. Those 2 felt like 2 things that would like a normal CW show would stretch out over a lot of episodes, but here they put it into, and they smushed it down into one episode, and they did it really well. They made it feel really organic. That's something Black Lightning is deviating a lot from the rest of the CW shows. They're clearly not interested in drama like the other CW shows are, and that's definitely a good thing, because there was no drama in this episode. There were romantic subplots, but none of them were bad or anything. There was drama. I'm going to take that back, but it was all great. It was all organic and really well done, and that's something you can't really say about all the other CW shows. So in conclusion, I loved this episode. It was so much better than episode 1. Cress Williams was a lot better as Jefferson Pierce than he was in episode 1. I just felt like he fit more into the role in this episode than in that episode. The fight scene was great. The way they incorporated the lightning and the electricity in this episode was amazing, as opposed to episode 1 where it was great, but here it was amazing. And Lawanda's realistic death, everything in this episode felt so organic, and I know I'm using the word organic a lot, but that's how you describe Black Lightning, really. A lot of praise, like I said earlier, is going towards how grounded the show is, and that's not the same thing, but very comparable to saying it's organic. The decisions people made in this episode were really realistic, and I really, really liked that. The only thing I didn't like about this episode were the death of Will and Lala. I didn't hate it or anything. Like, if they wanted to do that, that's fine by me, but I feel like we're missing out on 2 pretty great recurring villains. But anyway, I'll give this episode a 9.1 out of 10. Let me know what you thought about the episode in the comments down below, and also in the poll in the top right corner of the video. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.